Ryan grew up in a world where words really cut deep, and every day he carried the sting of rejection and abuse from the people he most wanted acceptance from.
Pretty much every day I'd get called at least these names, like all the time, would be like gay, faggot, poofda, like.
Imagine that. Those words spoken over you again and again until you start believing them. Well, for Ryan, that pain turned into confusion.
Started having sexual dreams about the guys that would pick on me. And for me, that was really confusing for me, because it's like, why am I having these, sexual dreams? And they'd be wet dreams. So it's like the whole biological thing's happening. Like I'm being wired in that way.
But what was your heart crying out for, do you think?
Just connection with men, like just acceptance and connection with men.
That longing could have destroyed him. But then God broke in, and what Ryan heard changed everything.
I feel like the Lord's saying, not just saying that he loves me, but that he's in love with me. And then as soon as I said that, it was like this, the way I kind of always articulate is like this filing cabinet door just kind of like flung open.
Hey, I'm PJ, and thanks for joining us on Love Questions Podcast. Hey, the reason this podcast exists is because we want to speak the truth about what God says about all the debated issues, giving you a Christian perspective so you can understand why we think the way we think, and talking straight about what we believe is just a better way of living. And we're not going to avoid things. We'll talk LGBT, sexuality, all the issues where people are trying to get you and me to shut up. We're not going to. Hope you enjoy it.
Hey, Ryan.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, mate. Good to see you here. Welcome to the Love Questions Podcast. I know we only met a few days ago, but I've heard so many good things about your story, your life and stuff. So, hey, thanks for coming on. Welcome to our home.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
It's good to have a local.
Yeah, local.
Gone through and through.
Yeah, pretty much been here my whole life.
All right, amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, hey, we're talking about the questions that come up in culture. The big ones, obviously, sex, dating, love, the whole jam. But, mate, tell us your story. I've heard a little bit on our phone conversation, but I'd love to hear more. You grew up in the Lord. You grew up believing, or just, give us the background.
Yeah, so pretty much didn't grow up fully in church. So my dad's Maltese, and so his heritage was very much within the Catholic Church. Mum didn't come from any kind of faith whatsoever. And so when they met, Mum was kind of introduced to faith through Dad, and like the Catholic Church, I suppose, a traditional kind of sense, and was introduced to God and faith through that. My parents actually split up when I was about 18 months. And so we moved down here to the South Coast from southern Sydney, and kind of the format of growing up was we'd live with Mum full time, and then Dad would come down and pick us up every second weekend, and we'd hang out there. So in regards to faith, my mum later on then, she was doing like Mum's a bit of a creative, so she was doing like a craft group thing at the local Baptist church, and got invited to a Bible study, and essentially got saved in and through a Bible study by attending a craft group.
Great.
So, yeah.
I love it. I love the different ways we come to Jesus and find out about his goodness and stuff. Amazing. Okay, so Dad was sort of out of the scene mostly.
Yeah.
Mum came to faith, and she talked to you about it.
Yeah, so I mean, as a kid, I was going to church with Mum. Kind of was going to Catholic school, so very much Catholic church was like my, I suppose, my upbringing and kind of what I knew. Kind of did all the formalities of being in that Catholic school and Catholic church, and that was like the family tradition. And then when Mum got saved through the Bible study, we were kind of going to more of a Pentecostal kind of charismatic movement. So it was obviously very different to what I was used to, and kind of thought, oh my gosh, these people are just wild and crazy. And
there's a few differences.
There's a few differences, but also like really connected with it. And just remember just loving it, loving the worship and the atmosphere and the preaching, and just I suppose a sense of like family and home. Mm-hmm. And so, kind of grew up, just going to church with Mum as a kid, as you do, not really kind of fully taking it all in, but just doing what you're supposed to do with your parents, as you do.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, so you knew the Lord, and would you say you were like saved? You were born again?
I probably didn't make the decision for myself until, like, obviously just learning as a kid and kind of, going on that journey. Probably fully didn't make the decision, probably made the decision a few times, as you do as a teenager, recommitting yourself to the Lord. probably like around my teenage years, early teenage years. But yeah, very much was just kind of grew up in that atmosphere, and kind of, came to the Lord that way.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what was going on as a teenager? Life was getting complicated, huh?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you want to start like with my story, I'll probably start from, I suppose, the beginning in early childhood when like I mentioned, my parents split up when I was younger, and so we moved down here. Mum kind of reconnected with her like high school sweetheart essentially, and they remarried, and he like obviously moved in with us. He wasn't like a very nice man, and because I wasn't his son, he would pick on me a lot, and so that kind of we're kind of getting into, I suppose, like earlier childhood. So kind of grew up, hanging out with my sister, played Barbies with her, go to craft with mum, kind of in that, my mum and my sister were kind of like my people, so to speak. And my stepdad was very, I suppose a very kind of negative influence in that essence of that part of my life. And so, just kind of had that growing up. And then going into primary school, kind of because that was my norm, playing with, my sister, going to craft with mum, I'm a bit of a creative, love all that kind of stuff. That obviously wasn't the norm going to primary school. And so very much got picked on by all the boys, got called names and just ostracized, I suppose, in that sense. And just kind of didn't understand it and, tried to fit in, find, as you do in those earlier school years, trying to make friends with the guys, because that's, I think what we desire is to make friends, and just really struggled in that time in early school. Because for me, connecting with girls was somewhat more normal.
And you feel like this kind of was relevant later on, this kind of had been a bit of a foundation for things that then grew for you?
I mean, like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah. What an obtuse question. We've talked and you were saying, I think that might have had relevance to what happened in my teen years. And
So 100%. So if we I'm just trying to give context to, like those years, like going to high school, going primary school, getting picked on by the guys, that was obviously like a really, just confusing time for me. I'm like, why don't, that's where I suppose for me where comparison started. And so looking at the other guys, why don't they accept me? Why don't I fit in? Why can't I be friends with the boys? Like, what's wrong with me? Like, and we just start comparing myself. That's where a lot of my struggle with my sexuality, I think, started. And so, kind of that was pretty much all of, I feel like I kind of got to a point within my early primary school years where I just it was just too hard work, like trying to make friends with the boys. And so it was just easier to make friends with the girls. I actually really had I had acquaintances like with like guys, but mostly had one girlfriend who was pretty much my friend through all primary school. And just really struggled. Actually repeated kindergarten. And, I think back then, I think that's probably even a reason why I repeated kindergarten in those first years, because I just struggled to connect and to make friends. And I suppose it was a real kind of, troubling time. So that kind of then flowed into that same kind of scenario, I suppose, repeated itself in high school. Like went to high school, again, being creative, not being the typical, male, really stuck out. And so again, the bullying started again.
What was your creative sort of flavor? What were you into?
Oh, I suppose anything really. Like visual arts. Like my mum was very much love like interiors and like interior design, interior decoration. So I kind of grew up in that environment. Like I grew up in an old house, watching it be renovated. So I'm like surrounded by creative stuff happening, and love that. Like I'd play with my sister's doll's house, and like pretty much what mum would do in the big house, I'd do in my sister's doll's house. Amazing. And so that was a real, I suppose, segue from my creativity. Studied interior decoration design out of high school, and kind of done, kind of dabbled in different creative stuff. But that's kind of essentially where the creative stuff came from. And so that was my passion, what I loved. And so going into high school, that's the same thing. Again, that's like, not the norm. And so
Aussie culture, like culture. Cause for bullying. Yeah. So sad.
Yeah. So, so then that, Gosh, going to high school, again, thinking, okay, this is another opportunity to kind of make friends. It's a fresh start coming from one school to another. Again, some of those people from my primary school followed me to the same, well, not, they didn't follow me, but we kind of naturally just went to the same high school. So that theme repeated. Just getting picked on, getting called like all the names under the sun. And like I got an opportunity to kind of write this down, several years ago now, where I actually wrote down what people would call me like. It's like, sorry if it's like offensive, but like pretty much every day I'd get called at least these names like all the time. Would be like gay, faggot, poofda, like, and just wanting like acceptance from the people you most like desire acceptance from. Like that's really really painful. It wasn't until I actually read it, I was like, man, that actually hits really hard. It speaks in the Bible about power of the tongue and power of the words. And I really know that to be true in my life, and how much they actually, solidified or like just made me question, okay, with these people that I really, really desire acceptance from, they're calling me these names every day. And, it wasn't like, it was mostly verbal, but some of it was physical, like just do like, things like that typical thing where, there was actually once, I remember one scenario, in regards to friends and loneliness has always been obviously a thing for me. I remember in my earlier high school years, I would buy this guy toffee apples for lunch just so he would sit with me, or for at recess, so he would sit with me and we'd meet at the same spot every day. And one day I went there and he just wasn't there. And I was like, oh, where's this guy? And so went looking for him in the high school playground and found him. He made friends with another group of guys and they just obviously just didn't want a bar of me. And did the whole thing where, they stand around and, bully you, and then someone kneels down behind you and then pushes you over, and then everyone would stand around and laugh. And so that was very much like kind of the daily rhythm of high school. It wasn't all that bad, but, again, just that common theme of just being picked on. And then that kind of then, for me, turned into, I suppose that's where being a creative, I very much like dream a lot and like see things obviously visually. And so for me, that's kind of like, there was the whole comparison thing, like again, going to high school, comparing myself to all the guys, what's wrong with me? Why am I different? Why don't people like me? Like, and then that kind of, what I know now, just doing a lot of research and going back, kind of was hyper fixated on, what can I need to change about myself to. So then that turned into me like longing to be like those guys. And then I feel like that then started for me in my, early pubescent years of start having sexual dreams about the guys that would pick on me. And for me, that was really confusing for me, because it's like, why am I having these, sexual dreams? And they'd be wet dreams. So it's like the whole biological thing's happening. Like I'm being wired in that way.
So confusing.
To be, to be like sexually attracted to these people that are causing me the most pain. And so that was kind of something that would, again, just kind of, this is all in the dark, and, don't really have anyone to speak to about this, obviously, in church life. And just even as a young teenager, you're like, I'm so confused by this, and somewhat that it's wrong, or you feel that it's wrong within, that context. And so kind of, very much did that part of the journey alone, and kind of all throughout my high school, it was just like, just the comparing and the, being attracted to these guys that are causing me pain and just not understanding it. Like,
Hey, thanks for watching. And if you're enjoying this podcast, why don't you sign up for our monthly newsletter, where you'll get inside scoops and more information, going a little deeper with the information you need. Go to lovequestionspodcast.com and you can sign up there.
Ryan, I'm so sorry, mate. Like obviously you're a different man now, and God's brought you through so much, but I'm so sorry for that cruelty. It just is devastating and heartbreaking. And just your heart goes out to anyone who's going through that now. Hey.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I know that's cool. Yeah. Just from what I hear nowadays, like I couldn't imagine how much worse it would be, obviously, with, how different things are these days with social media and all that kind of stuff. I suppose I was kind of saved from that. But like still pretty tumultuous.
If there's anyone who's like watching, what would you tell them if they're experiencing either loneliness or bullying or a feeling of rejection or not fitting in? Like, what would you say to them? Gosh,
I mean, reach out to somebody, and sometimes that can be hard. I mean, I say that now, but back then I just feel like, again, loneliness was my thing and my vice, and so I probably didn't really feel like I had anyone to talk to about it. There's obviously so much shame attached with having those feelings. And so I just didn't feel like I really had him. So again, just very much did that journey alone.
Yeah.
But if you do have somebody in your world, or you have like anyone, reach out and share that. I mean, it's a really hard place to be. I fully understand that. But there's, we know that there's an enemy, and I know for me, when things are in the dark, they just become, bigger than what they're meant to be. And that's what happened for me. Like I just was in the dark for so long, and that kind of led to, the dreams then, for me led to my pursuit of pornography. And so, because those dreams would be like, even just processing and thinking about the journey, leading up to this conversation, just thinking about those dreams were always like it was always like I'd wake up just before the sexual act would happen in the dreams. And so it was just this constant like lie or temptation of like, or tease of going to that next step.
Yeah.
And so for me, that was very much a draw. I feel like what drew me into connection, wanting connection with men, essentially. And so, that they very much led, to that part of my life of going down that rabbit hole of pornography and getting caught up in that. And just what I see now is just desiring connection with men on a healthy level, but obviously just turned into something that it wasn't meant to be, being in the dark, pursuing that stuff. And then, then that was just another layer of shame and having that stuff hidden, and just, struggling in that area as well.
So what was your heart like crying out for? What did you want that obviously you felt like it was being fulfilled in a weird way that you didn't desire, but this was like hitting a need somehow? But what was your heart crying out for, do you think,
just
at that
connection with men, like just acceptance and connection with men, like just to have, like I said, my just like up until that point, like every kind of point of contact or relationship that I had with men was just broken or distorted. Whether it be my stepdad at home being picked on, then the boys at school, any kind of men I would try and connect with on it, just purely on it. It started out like, if I look back now, it started out purely being like just wanting to be accepted by the boys and just have friends and camaraderie. Like that's what we desire. We desire mateship and
totally
that kind of thing. That's where it started from. But because all this other stuff was happening under the surface, it kind of just turned into something that it wasn't meant to be, I believe, and just kind of grew from there. And so just kind of like that was kind of the only place I would find, I suppose, comfort and connection, where it was, I suppose, controlled, you could say. And just, again, loneliness was my vice. I'd be feeling lonely. I just want connections, and then I would just turn to that stuff.
I hate to tell you, this is not just an issue for folks who experience same-sex attraction. This is like, the stats on pornography are unbelievable. Like, and I know some of it's lust and sexual, but I think there's a huge other bit that's people's hearts are longing for connection, and that's like the highway to feeling intimate.
Yeah, exactly.
And we actually desire that in long-term sustained relationships, to be valued, to have acceptance, to sense like a closeness and a belonging. But we're not getting it. Our heart cries out for it, and we just go to anything that will give us even like a counterfeit version of that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and I mean, like I said, as an adult, I've even now doing like courses with people, or just listening to different content. Like at the end of the day, a lot of that stuff isn't even like at surface level. Yes, it's lust, but it's actually deeply rooted in that desire for connection and acceptance and love.
Intimacy,
and and so understanding all that now. Obviously, I didn't understand that back then. Huge struggle in that kind of teenage years of my life.
So where was Jesus in all this? Like, how did he help?
Yeah. So
what's filled your heart with the connection that you were looking for?
Yeah.
Because I'm just hoping, mate, just that others hear, because I look at you now, you're full of life, but my heart's breaking for you. Teenage years you described.
That part of my life, totally.
But I just want anyone to hear this and be like, no, God's got a plan to fill your heart with good things and healthy male connection and all that.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, grew up in church. I don't know what it was about like church and youth. Maybe it was that sense. There was that element of connection and of family, and which I suppose was probably the initial draw, and just being in that atmosphere of what I know to be church and family and healthy relationship. There was that element of it. Obviously, there was still this kind of thing going on in
Well,
underlying,
and healthy is the goal, right? We all know in church,
that's what we
it's
desire.
Like all relationships, it's sometimes healthy and sometimes it needs work, but that's the nature of relationships.
Yeah,
right?
I think that's what we all desire. Is we all desire healthy and wholesome relationships, and there's just many ways of getting there.
Yeah.
And so I grew up. Yeah, like went to youth. In my like mid to late teenage years, actually a huge part of I feel like a part of the journey in just identifying with my journey and kind of looking back was kind of starting, as I mentioned earlier, I had an older sister because of the environment that we grew up in with my stepdad. She actually went and lived with my dad when she was in year 10. So for me, I was in kind of mid-teenage years, and that was a really kind of pivotal moment for me, and again, in looking back as an adult, and kind of really spiraled and highlighted my trauma in the area of abandonment. I remember looking back and going, oh, like when the day she decided to leave and to go live with dad, like I literally just broke because she was my best friend. And even, she wasn't aware of the fact at that time, and that for me, it was like, I lost my best friend that day because I'd shared everything with her, and well, not this stuff, but like, she was my best friend. And so that kind of was, I suppose, a really pivotal time. And I'll probably get to it later on in the conversation, but kind of I think was just another kind of notch in the belt of just abandonment for me. And so that was kind of, she left, but I continued going to youth and faith and church. Again, still kind of struggling with that, and even in the environment of church, like struggling with comparison as well, like going and just the fear and the underlying notion of wanting to connect with guys, but also fearing like being attracted to them, especially in a church context. And so that was just kind of like, I suppose, keeping things at a distance as well. And so just growing. That was just really kind of like one of these ones, just like up and down. Like, there was moments. I wouldn't say it's like been a constant struggle. Like it's kind of in seasons. It's been like probably a bit more louder than other times. And obviously when I've maybe had areas of connection, I've a lot of times of connection and friendship that's happened, or when I've had even friendships, like male friendships throughout those years that like I'd get really close to them, and then for whatever reason they'd fall apart, or like they'd maybe walk away from the Lord, or just choose not to be friends with me, whatever the situation. And so that kind of would, I suppose, in essence, just kind of highlight or put a pressure point on the loneliness and the abandonment. And then later on in my like high school years, I actually formed a relationship with a girl, and dated her for about 3 years. And, eventually within that relationship, in that journey, I shared that with, it's not something you share, and my heart's desire was always for the Lord to bring healing in my life. And obviously don't understand as much as what I do now. But at that point, at that time, probably halfway through the relationship, I shared that with her, like my struggles and my desire to be healed. And, even looking back now, like, there would have been a lot to take on as like, an 18,
teenage
19,
girl.
like, so we continued to date, even, in that, and she was really good about it. And then unfortunately, like when I was 21, that relationship fell apart. She actually left me the day before my 21st birthday for one of my mates in church. And he was very much the kind of guy that I would compare myself to. And so that for me just like upheaved everything. And it was just like the whole struggle with my sexuality, and like just all the feelings just came to the surface of like, you're not good enough, you're not man enough. And that was the thing, the comparison thing was like, you're just not man enough, like comparing myself. And so then I even went through the struggle of like, which sounds really warped, but like being attracted to him, and then like just understanding that the Lord kind of revealed to me later on that I just kind of wanted acceptance. And that was really confusing.
I mean, this is so, some of what you shared is so confusing, but this is like, we've hit like a new level. Wow. Bless you for just walking through that, telling us about it. So your 3 girlfriend,
Yeah.
you love. I'm assuming your
Yeah.
heart was
Oh,
for
I
her.
intended to marry her. Like that
And-
was the
and
goal.
she-
I suppose that's what you do.
And she leaves you for this dude who you've sort of compared yourself to and felt
Yeah.
less than.
And he was a friend too. Yeah.
And he was a friend.
Yeah.
Oh, so you lose the friend,
Mm.
and then you find yourself being attracted to that guy.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. It was a pretty wild, wild journey.
Bro, I love you, man. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you're going good. That is just rough.
Yeah. That was a journey itself. And, yeah, I mean, again, like the breakup was like hard enough, like just even going through that emotionally and like having to be, it was in church. And so I would see them, obviously see them together and just having to deal with that. And that was a real journey of forgiveness. And yeah, all the feelings came up. Like,
I'm not judging, but that is not what Jesus would do to like take your mate's girlfriend.
Yeah, no, not at all. Yeah, totally. That's not, and obviously like I know that, broken people, we're broken humans. We make silly mistakes. And
so all of that sounds so rough.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry that you had to go through that.
Yeah. It was a real troubled time. Obviously like the breakup was hard enough, but then it obviously just brought up all this, just brought up all of my struggle with my sexuality and like comparison, and comparing myself to this guy, and really just struggled with my sexuality. It's kind of just all on at once, like the dreams, like the desire for connection, the loneliness, and then that alone, like all my friends were kind of involved in that as well, so it became a really difficult situation, and very very much felt alone in that, because it was kind of a bit of a too hard basket, which I totally get, a really difficult situation to navigate within a community context, and again, it wasn't easy. But that then led me, I feel like the Lord very much met me at that point and led me on this journey of forgiveness, to the point where 6 years later I was actually able to go to their wedding, and that was, again, it was a journey of forgiveness, and what the Lord taught me in that season I wouldn't take back, and I wouldn't change. And as crazy as that seems to say, what He did and taught me in that time was huge. And so that was, I feel like for me, that point where that happened, where my girlfriend left me for this guy, it was a real opportunity for the enemy to derail me. He's always tried to undermine and derail that part of my faith walk, and kind of the lie's always been to take that next step, it will satisfy. Take that next step, it will satisfy.
Where did things go for you from there, from this confusing breakup, and but you've got this relationship with God, and that you're really sensing that He's going to bring you through, but at the same time, situationally, things are confusing.
Yeah, things are very confusing in that time. And again, like I said, I feel like it was a real moment for the enemy to derail me, whether to okay, like, you must be gay, like, look, all the things, like, she's left you for this guy. All those things kind of coming up, and obviously like alongside my faith journey, like, but just what I'd experienced in God was always stronger than what my flesh felt, and just the love I'd experienced in Him, and so, like I said, that was kind of in amongst that journey. After the fact, I was obviously struggling with loneliness, and with just wanting connection, and I actually, a situation happened where I was out for dinner with a mate from church, and somebody that he knew served us, who was working at the restaurant at the time. Later on, then I think maybe it was like a week or two later, he must have like seen me walking into church, and so I came out from church, and he'd left a note in my car door saying, I think it said something along the lines of like, "You're cute, like, this is my number, call me." And I was obviously in the midst of all that emotional turmoil of like, loneliness, desiring connection, desiring affirmation, really was just, and I hadn't at that point really spoken to a lot of people about this part of the journey, and like, it still was very much in the dark. Like, I'd spoken to youth pastors and people, leaders within church, and had like moments of times to share, but for what I know now, there wasn't people wouldn't ever like, I'd have that time with them, but then they would never check in. There was never a level of accountability. And so what I know now after doing, ministry and, being a part of groups where there's accountability and consistency, I was kind of left out in the, I struggle with this, but like no one really ever checked in with me or, went along those ways. And so because of that, I was very much alone in that area. And so when this happened, I was obviously just hungry or just curious. Never really spoken to anyone who'd been living in that lifestyle. And so caught up with him, like just down the beach, just have a conversation just to like, I'm curious, like this curious early 20-year-old who's gone through this tumultuous breakup, just feeling really lonely. Just want to know, like I'm kind of at that fork in the road moment. And so, caught up with him, ended up spending the night with him, like just chatting. It got really late, like nothing sexually happened. I think we were affectionate and whatever, like, but like I remember it was like 3 a.m. because it was just like, obviously that's like a quite a long period of my life just struggling. So it was obviously a lot of questions, a lot of just talking back and forth and obviously just struggling with like all of it, like feeling wrong for being there and desiring it. And, I've got, faith in one corner and all the things. And so, like got really late and I was like, I couldn't go home and like people are going to ask where I'm being, like, all that. I just left that night just feeling like so much shame and so much stuff hidden. And like, but also that the tension of desiring it, and kept that hidden for a really long time, maybe like three years. Never told anyone about it. It just kind of ate away at me. And I just felt that shame of it. And that kind of led to, like I suppose another real pivotal moment in the journey. I think I shared with you, where there was a couple at church who were customers of mine. I was working in a boutique at the time. And then they also were customers in another shop anyway, long-term customers. I actually didn't even know they were Christians. And I built like a bit of a relationship with them and they invited me over to their house for dinner. And so, we were just chatting and like obviously at a dinner table chatting, and they were chatting about what they did. And they'd been working for some time in what's called LL Ministries, which is essentially a place where people go to do like inner healing and just prayer ministry with the Lord. And so the whole time, like they've actually shared that they ministered in these kind of areas. The whole time the Holy Spirit's just like pounding on my heart, share with them your secret. I'm like, I know these people, but I don't know these people well enough to be like, share my whole, my deepest, darkest secret. And so again, the Holy Spirit's just like, come on, share. And I'm like, okay, finally I did. And so I shared with them, there's a situation with that guy that night that I'd never shared with anyone. And like even like that in itself was just so freeing. But we also just had this time of, just prayer and ministry where it was just really gentle, really beautiful, really authentic, where we were just able to, essentially like pray into what the Lord was saying about my struggle and where was he in it. And so, as we were praying, someone was like, the guy who was, that was the husband, he said to me, I can tell you what God's saying, but if like, it'll only be temporal, but if you hear what the Lord's saying, it'll be a revelation and it'll be eternal. And so we were praying and I was like, oh, I'm not really getting anything. He's like, that's like, it's all good. Like he said to me, like, nothing's random in the Lord. So whatever you're hearing, like, and again, it wasn't like a pressured thing. It was like, nothing's random. And so we like prayed again in a really gently and beautifully. And I was like, oh, I feel like the Lord's saying, not just saying that he loves me, but that he's in love with me. And then as soon as I said that, it was like this, the way I kind of always articulate is like this filing cabinet door just kind of like flung open, kind of like there's a movie where it just flings and all the files come out. And it was just kind of like that the Lord just like downloaded to me, like, revelation and truth of my situation, that, how I see Father God is always just like, I love the Lord and, but I've always like seen him as far off and as distant, because how I see Father God is how I see my earthly father. Like I know my earthly father loves me. Like my dad, I've got a really good relationship with my biological father, but he's always obviously been distant. And he's really affectionate, really loving, but it's always been a distant thing. And any kind of sense of a male relationship that I've had, there's been like no affection or no closeness. And so it was like how I see Father God is how I see my earthly father. And just the revelation of that. And like I can not tell you how much like I experienced God's love that. And I'd never experienced God's love like I'd experienced it before. And it was like the way I've been explained is like I was a cupboard that God had cleaned out. And Jazz, the wife, she kind of said to me, she said, I feel like the Lord's saying to you, your whole life, I just see this. She's like, I just see this little boy. In your whole life, you just compared yourself to what the world would say is masculine and is strong and is a man. But your strength is your joy, and the joy of the Lord is your strength. And the enemies tried to steal that through shame and through condemnation. And then Simon, again, it was really beautiful. Like he actually held me as a father would and like just prayed over me. And again, that was just, I feel like a real kind of stepping stone or notch in the belt for the healing journey, or really what got started that thing of like, okay, like the Lord's on this and he's with me because he's met me every step of the way. I feel like a lot of the time was obviously like the separation of like, this is, I can't talk about God with this. This is too like,
it's too messy for God.
Too messy for God.
Yeah.
And so, like I'd never experienced God's love like I did that night. Like it was like, they were just, people that were God with skin on and, just allowed me to experience the Father's love.
It changes
like I never
everything.
experienced it before.
Yeah.
And then, so I left that night just being like, oh my gosh, God is like I'm just buzzing with the love of the Lord. Yeah. And I got home, like just as I got home, Simon actually texted me and he said, dude, like check your emails. Like he's like, check your email. He sent me an email. I'll actually read it because I feel like it just gives context to what actually happened that night. So he's emailed me and he goes, dude, I can't tell you can't tell me God isn't completely head over heels in love with you. He has only just begun. And like a lover smitten with their lover, he's obviously wanted you to go to bed with one more reminder. Because here below in my inbox, as I was shutting down my computer, I get a daily email from Devotional Ransomed Heart Ministries. And this was one sitting in my inbox word for word. Bless you, bro, and sleep well. See you in the morning. It was church the next day. So this is the little devotional I got. The scriptures employ a wide scale of metaphors to capture the many facets of our relationship with God. If you consider them in a sort of ascending order, there is a noticeable and breathtaking progression. Down near the bottom of the totem pole, we are the clay and he is the potter. Moving up a notch, we are the sheep and he is the shepherd, which is a little better position on the food chain, but hardly flattering. Sheep don't have a reputation as the most graceful and intelligent creatures in the world. Moving upward, we're the servants of the master, which at least lets us into the house, even if we have to wipe our feet, watch our manners, and not talk too much. Most Christians never get past this point, but the ladder of metaphors is about to make a swift descent. God also calls us his children and himself our heavenly Father, which brings us into the possibility of real intimacy. Love is not one of the things a vase and its craftsmen share together, nor does a sheep truly know the heart of the shepherd, though it may enjoy the fruits of his kindness. Still, there is something missing, even in the best parent-child relationship. Friendship levels the playing field in a way that family communion never can, at least not until the kids have grown up and left the house. Friendship opens a level of communion that a 5-year-old doesn't know with his mother and father, and friends are what he calls us. But there is still a higher and deeper level of intimacy and partnership awaiting us. At the top of the metaphorical ascent, we are lovers. The courtship that began with a honeymoon in the garden culminates in a wedding feast of the Lamb. It will take delight in you, he says to us. As a bridegroom rejoices over his bride, so I will rejoice over you, so that we might say in return, I'm a beloved and his desire is for me. And so that was the email that he got on that night.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And so for me, that was just the Lord confirming in me what he had done. I feel like the enemy always tries to undermine the work that the Lord does in us. And so if that wasn't enough, like as I said earlier, church was the next day. we had like a meeting, and my young adults pastor, she like touched me on the shoulder and she's like, whoa, what's going on with you? Like the Lord's definitely doing something in you. Like something's going on. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess. And like, obviously just remembering what the Lord still kind of in the after effects of what had happened that night. Yeah. And so then went down to the place I used to work, and walked into work. And my colleague, who wasn't at all Christian, she looks at me and goes, whoa, what's going on with you? You look like you're in love. And I was like, oh, I'm not in love with it. And I was like,
I can explain everything. I am in love.
Yeah, totally. I was like, oh, wow. Like even she can see what the Lord's doing in me.
Yeah.
So again, I just felt like that was a confirmation that the Lord was like, yeah, like, you know, what he'd done in me that night and what he taught me about his love for me. Again, just a real kind of pivotal moment in the journey.
Isn't this so incredible? For all these things that you got robbed, you know, since childhood, the love of a father, adolescence, the lost love of a friend or two, the loss of male affection, all these things. And yet now we get to fall in love with the man, Jesus, the pure, perfect man who is everything we could want to be and who wants us. There's no rejection ever possible. Like we're chosen. He wants us. He doesn't just put up with us and have to forgive us. He desires us. Like, and God replaces that with just being wanted. I mean, it's not just you. This is for all of us. Wow, I'm chosen and I'm wanted. He wants to be with me. What an incredible turnaround. What redemption.
Yeah.
Incredible, Ryan. That is.
There's more.
Yeah. Okay. Come on. Tell us more.
There's lots more. So yeah, I mean, that happened. And then obviously like my I suppose it didn't change, like it was a huge moment, but it didn't still change the fact that I, you know, struggled with loneliness and there was like was the underlying struggle with pornography and just like the debris of that stuff. And so kind of still struggled with that throughout my, you know, that kind of happened early 20s, kind of really still struggled with that stuff throughout, you know, just that longing for connection, longing for friendship, longing for mateship, whilst struggling with you know, with being attracted to men. And so, like fast forward, I suppose, a couple of years to my later 20s, I went to a friend's wedding. You know, being creative, I styled their wedding, you know, was a part of that. And there was a guy there who, again, I'm like in church this whole time, like pursuing the Lord, but there's this, again, like little gremlin or like thing on my shoulder, like, you know.
Demon, we'll call it.
Yeah. You know, this idol that's trying to take my chance. There's always something vying for our attention and our affection above God. Yeah. And this was it for me. This thing of like, oh, if I just have this, it'll complete me. It'll satisfy that lie that the enemy was always trying to take, you know, just pull me with. And so, yeah, it was at this wedding. This guy was in the band and I was like doing, you know, so we were kind of in the venue setting up and, you know, just connected with him. And he was like being really, you know, I suppose just giving me attention. And like I was kind of not, you know, aware of the fact until after, you know, he was like, you know, as my pastor says in regards to a relationship, when, you know, a need's met, like you're just drawn to each other, like within two people. And this was obviously a really unhealthy kind of thing. And so he was like being really affectionate with me, like touched me on the leg, touched me on the back and connected with me. I'm like, oh, this guy that like finds me, you know, interesting, like, or like is, you know, generally interested in me. Like that's like so uncommon for me anyway. Like, and then obviously later on figured out why, because, you know, at this point I'd experienced that moment with the Lord and had all this revelation and other stuff that the Lord had done in me. And so, like ended up, you know, connecting with him, went out like for dinner later, you know, a couple of nights, like, you know, a week or so later, with the intention to share that stuff with him. Now, I shared my story, I shared my God journey with him, what the Lord had done in me and what he revealed to me, and just kind of, you know, when you experience something good, you want to share it with people. Totally. And he shared his story with me and I, you know, couldn't like unsee, you know, what had happened to him and the brokenness of his life. Meanwhile, like also too struggling with the underlying current of my, you know, the struggle with my sexuality. So again, it was a similar situation to the last guy. We, you know, chatted for ages and it was really late. And I ended up taking him home. And he like offered me to come in and I'm just like battling with the flesh. I'm like, oh, like I so desired, like I'm obviously having this moment of connection and with a guy, and just like my flesh is like loving that again, that needs being met for affection and being desired.
Yeah.
And so I really just battled with that. And so ended up like going like staying at his place that night. Again, like we didn't have sex or anything, but we like were affectionate and whatever. And just I just remember that night just like laying in the bed like next to him thinking, oh, like this isn't what I want. This is like all I just want, again, back to the fact of where it all started. Like all I really desire is just like to be loved and accepted. Like I don't really, this is not like what I desire, but obviously the tension of like go the next step was there. And I remember just waking up that next morning and leaving the house and be like, you know, what they call the walk of shame, just walking down the driveway and just feeling the Lord say to me, it's okay. Like, it's okay. Like, it's not okay that you did that, but it's okay. I understand why you did that.
Wow.
And just felt his grace like so much that morning. And sure enough, I was catching up with a friend the next day and I like remember, you know, I was like, there's no way I'm keeping this to myself for the next 3 years. Like, so I literally just shared with her everything that happened and, you know, kind of like just learnt from the last experience. And that was a real kind of, I suppose, another like notch in the moment of like, okay, struggling with this thing. Like, it's not what I really wanted, but like, just again, like just being caught up in it all. And that was like, again, another thing that kind of just kind of fell to waste. Obviously just struggled with that. Like, again, that battle back and forth with that lie of like, or what if, and that's always been the thing, like with the first guy, with this guy, it's like the thing of like that lie. And that, again, that night with Simon and Jads and that ministry time, he's like, what's the lie you've been believing about this? Is like, go that next step and it'll satisfy. I remember actually that the first guy I spent the night with, he's just like, I remember him telling just how like almost not to pursue that lifestyle because of how, you know, what his experience had been was really like just sad.
So he was not trying to talk you out of it, but like, hey, this is not.
Yeah, it's not what you think it is.
Wow. And not a Christian. So
no, well, he actually grew up from a Christian home. He was actually in a relationship. He was in a relationship at the time that he reached out to me, and obviously his boyfriend was away. He was feeling really lonely and just wanted connection, and you know, and so that was one thing that kind of stood out to me. It was like, you know, he kind of just said that to me. He's like, don't, you know, like obviously, and him probably battling with, you know, wanting to hook up with me and like, but also being really truthful in that sense.
This is all just it's so complicated. There's no like.
It's multifaceted. There's so many different facets to it. And so, like after the night that sad guy, that kind of just played on me, you know, again, just something, again, I aired it. So it kind of wasn't able to kind of fester and become, you know, like something that it wasn't meant to be. And I feel like something kind of broke. And even he said to me, I caught up with him after the fact. He's like, something's changed in you. Like he saw something had changed in me. Like I came to a revelation, this is what I really want. It was just kind of fulfilling a need.
What is it for you? Because we've met and you seem so full of peace. Like there's you've you know, fostered forgiveness. You've been through a lot and you're really honest. Like, what is it in your life now that makes, like, how does God show you now the way to live? How does he fill that drawer, that chest of drawers and fill you up? What's that like for you today?
Yeah. So it will probably come down to, I think, again, another pivotal moment. Like that was another pivotal moment with that guy at a revelation and notching the belt. Yeah. And then about 3 years ago, a similar situation happened again. It was like, again, it was around Christmas time. Christmas time's all about family, being together. My family's spread abroad. I've got family in Queensland and Tasmania. I'm here by myself and I'm single. And so, you know, family is very much, and, you know, that is very much, and, you know, obviously being single within the Christian community can be quite isolating. You know, I've walked through many seasons with different friends, you know, going through the motions of life, you know, being single, married, had kids, being single, married, had kids. I feel like I'm on my third kind of season of friends, so to say, which I love. Like I love it, but it's also, again, it's kind of intensified within that community when you don't have that. And so, it was Christmas time. I was feeling really lonely. Obviously, like pornography is like a vice. Again, not something that's like been a continuous thing, but again, just really highlighted in those times. It's kind of like I just desire connection because I don't have it. And so I just got to the point, like at the end of the year, I was like, you know, like anyone does, It's like, okay, New Year's resolution, I'm just so done with this cycle of going around the mountain. And I was just so done with, I'm like, God, I'm just going to, New Year's resolution, I'm just not going to go there anymore. Like, I've just been doing this for so long and I'm so over it. And so at that time I connected with, or made a friend in my local grocery store. Like, which obviously that's where I frequent. It's my local grocery store. Generally, every time I'd go into the shop, this guy would be genuinely excited to see me. And I was like, and at that time I was like, obviously feeling really lonely, and my whole life I've just been desiring just friendships, like male friendships, and even in church has like been a struggle. Or just through different seasons, people coming and going, people walking away from the Lord, like whatever context. But never like, to the depth of the point where I can share this stuff with mates. And so, yeah, that was going on. He'd genuinely be excited to see me. Like every time, like this is like, again, they're just pulling on the need within me to feel desired by something or someone. And so, yeah, built connection with him. We ended up like, you can only have so much chit chat within the aisles of the supermarket. So we exchanged details, I was designed to pursue a friendship.
Yep.
And so he messaged me straight away and was like, hey, I think you're really handsome. I'd like to take you out on dinner. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like just completely blindsided. I genuinely thought it was a friendship. And like, so that for me, I was just like, oh, like really? I was like just so frustrated because I was like, I'm just wanting to give up on this part of my life. And it's like,
you got a target on your back.
I got a target on my back, literally. But I was genuinely like, honest with him. I said to him, yeah, I'd like to go out for dinner with you, but like, this is something I've been struggling with my whole life, like my sexuality. And I said, maybe I could share that with you. Again, my heart's intention wasn't to go on a date with him, but again, just to share what the Lord had done in me and what I knew to be truth. And, the more truth I kind of say that the Lord has brought to my life, the more ground I've had to stand on. When the enemies come to kind of push me off my perch or derail me, like initially I had nothing. But the more that the Lord's done in my life, he's built ground and he's built truth. And so when the enemy comes to, maybe prod and push and, have a target on my back, I've got more stance, like to stand at, what the wider stance. So when it's, the storms come of life or things come to rattle you, I've got that ground to stand on. And so I had that going on, but then also had this tumultuous time of loneliness and just desiring connection. And so, went out for dinner with him that night. Chatted through like my whole God journey with him, shared my story. He shared his, and again, just couldn't unsee mine and his brokenness.
So he described brokenness too. He described
just
I'm
like,
here and it's painful.
Yeah, just like all the things that happened to him. Like he was, I remember him sharing something like he was in school. His teacher would say, "You're gay," like this, like just things being spoken over him, or like, and just different broken relationships. And like obviously, I knew what I knew about my story. And kind of share that with him. And so like he would then relate with similar things. And so, like, again, had that, my heart's desire fully was to go and, just share my story with him, but also like very much along the side of struggling with, the sexual side of things.
Yeah.
And just the desire for connection and affection. For me, my love languages are, words of affirmation, physical touch, and quality time. And I lived by myself at that time, and so I didn't get any of that. So I'm just like desiring that so much. And so that night I actually kissed him, and that for me just unraveled a whole can of worms. It was just like literally just like my whole life struggle just unraveled. Like I hadn't experienced any kind of level of connection or affection at that point since my early 20s with my girlfriend. And so that for me was just like, just upheaved so much stuff. And emotionally, it was just like a bit of a roller coaster. And I was just like, I don't know what to do with this. Like I desire this, but I'm like, I've also got like this whole God like experience and like truth and revelation in my life, which always spoke so much louder to the fact that obviously this is quite a strong pull, especially once that kind of lid was taken off. And it was just like, upheaved so much stuff, and I just went through a bit of an emotional roller coaster, and like it was almost like tasting a drug that hadn't had before. And I just wanted more of it. It just literally sent me like somewhat crazy. And I'm like, I was just willing to give up. And like, crazy would just throw everything in for it. And which scared me at the same time. I was like, this is crazy. I literally don't even know this guy. And I'm willing just to like throw myself at him. Like, so that kind of frightened me at the same time. So it's just like all the emotions and all the things. But I had to like make a decision again. I feel like another opportunity for the enemy to derail me, and had that fork in the road moment. And I chose to surrender it, because at the end of the day, the Lord and what He'd done in my life spoke so much louder.
Surrender it to God.
Yeah, surrender. And I know that to be any kind of point in the journey or in life, when we come to a really big life decision, it's like there's always that element of surrender that He desires us to do. And so, yeah, I surrendered. I was like, God, I give this to you. And it was actually a really big eye opener too, for like, if I did pursue that lifestyle, because what it would do to me, like, and just how much it just like unraveled me in a really unhealthy way. And just, yeah, like, and it was like, yeah, it was just really, it was awful. Like, and I hated who I became, like, in that sense. And so, yeah, I surrendered it. And like, funnily enough, that the Lord was totally on it. Like I remember the last time I saw this guy, I was like, at the time I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to go back to this grocery store and see this guy and like deal with all this stuff? And he actually I saw it was the Lord, and it's like just the Lord looking after me. Like, he actually got transferred from that shop to another shop. And I was like, okay, God, I see you in this. And I was like, thank you. Because I was like, yeah, how am I going to deal with this? And so, yeah, I ended up, just, God, I just give this to you, and I choose you again. I choose to just continue, because I know you're good. And so, yeah, like that for me, and in surrendering, I can, in surrendering, at that point in my life, I can't tell you, like, weeks, months, like later, the Lord just started bringing men into my life, in a church context, and when in a healthy relationship context, relationships where I was able to, just for them to be able to share this stuff with, and to have healthy relationships. And the Lord has, as much as men has broken and has healed me, has brought brokenness to my life, the Lord's used men to heal me.
Totally.
And so, yeah, I now have friendships and relationships, where I'm able to be, I've known in two parts what it's like to be hidden and to be fully known and fully seen. And so I now have mates and friends in my life and father figures in my life, where I'm able to be completely open and honest, and fully have all this seen, and, have accountability and have consistency. And they've brought real healing to my life.
Have males in your life. It's not a sexual thing, but it's a healthy thing. You're not rejected, not abandoned. You feel the love. You feel that you can, have intimate relationships with men that aren't sexual. We all need that. And
only he can do it. Like, I don't know what else to say.
Ryan, you've just got such a beautiful heart. It's so obvious it comes through. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thanks, mate.
Everything that you've shared. It's a lot what you've been through, but also what you're describing, the way that God's met you in each of those parts is super encouraging. And you chose Him. You chose the Lord. I just love that, and you honor that. And I just believe, like, you're going to see so much more of what He does in the journey to fill your heart with all the things that you felt you were missing. Yeah, and I'm just believing anyone listening and watching can see hope the way that God has come
He's
through.
our hope. Yeah, and that's what I keep clinging to. Like, I can't unsee His goodness in my life. Like, that's again been the loudest thing of, like, yes, there's been all this stuff happen, but He's like met me every step of the way. Like, each time because it's a battle. Like, you're just constantly warring over these desires, and it's like there's been many moments that I've just wanted to throw the towel in and give up, because I'm over it. And He's met me every step of the way. Like, He'll meet me in my darkest hours, and He's right there. Like, and I've seen him, like I've seen his goodness in my life. Like I can't deny that. I can't unsee what he's done.
Yeah.
And that's what's held me to the fact. He's kept me this whole way. Like, and I'm grateful for that. Like, and just to see what he's done in my life, not just in my life, but in other people's lives. Like I can't deny it. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your honesty about the struggle too. It's so helpful just not to get these like caricatures, like, oh, I met God and everything changed. Like, well, that's not true for everybody.
No, yeah. And I'm still on the journey. Like I would describe it as like it's been a big mountain in my life, and I feel like I'm on the other way down. And it's, the healing that he's brought in the last 3 years through these male relationships is a huge part of that. And I feel like he's fast tracked a lot of that. And so I'm still on the journey, and I know that I've got a way to go, as we all do.
It's called, I think it's called being a Christian. Yeah. I've not arrived.
Yeah. And so, I'm grateful to him for that. Yeah.
Well, bless you, mate. Loved hearing your story. Thanks for your heart. I'm hoping we can hang out.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, mate. I really appreciate you having me here.